Meta to end fact-checking program on Facebook and Instagram in the US. Meta is ending its fact-checking program in the US and replacing it with a system similar to the community notes on Elon Musk-owned X, formerly Twitter. The Facebook parent said on Tuesday, the new model will allow users on Meta's social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, to call out posts that are potentially misleading and need more context, rather than placing the responsibility on independent fact-checking organizations and experts. A spokesperson for Meta confirmed to CBC News that the changes won't apply in Canada or anywhere else outside of the US for now. We are beginning with rolling out community notes in the US and will continue to improve it over the course of the year before expansion to other countries, the spokesperson said. Meta's Chief Global Affairs Officer, Joel Kaplan, wrote a blog post explaining the change. Experts, like everyone else, have their own biases and perspectives. This showed up in the choices some made about what to fact-check and how, Kaplan wrote. A program intended to inform too often became a tool to censor. Kaplan added that its efforts over the years to manage content across its platforms have expanded to the point where we are making too many mistakes, frustrating our users, and too often getting in the way of the free expression we set out to enable. CEO Mark Zuckerberg acknowledged that the changes are in part sparked by political events, including Donald Trump's presidential election victory. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech, Zuckerberg said in an online video. The company said it would begin phasing in community notes in the United States over the next couple of months and would improve the model over the course of the year. We've seen this approach work on X, where they empower their community to decide when posts are potentially misleading and need more context, Kaplan said in the blog post. Meta will also stop demoting fact-checked content and use a label notifying users there is additional information related to the post, instead of the company's current method of displaying full-screen warnings that users have to click through before even viewing the post.
And that was from CBC.
Yeah.
So wild. One thing I will say is it's an uphill battle that Meta has because just the amount of content that they need to monitor is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So I firmly agree with what the spokesperson said just around they're making mistakes. Meta has never been bigger. It is, despite what you might think, it is got like record active users, record active content.
Fully agreeing with what the spokesperson said. It is a strong stance.
Oh no, just with that one thing. It's just with that one thing I should say is it's difficult to manage that much content. It is insane. Yeah. So like because of, and I mean that might be hiring more people, better training, more tools. It's just that's a huge challenge for content moderation. Not to say that it's not important. It's just a big challenge. So I'm glad that they're saying they're making mistakes because they probably were. Fine, you can, whether or not the mistakes were real or not. It's just I don't know how. I don't have the knowledge on how they would even start monitoring 10,000 posts a minute.
Oh, it's a lot.
Like it's a consent. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about fact checkers versus community notes.
Sure.
I think there's pros and cons to both.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big cons to fact checkers is, as you mentioned, it's a lot of content.
It's a lot of content.
And so if you're leaving the moderation to a small team of people that are on payroll, that's a big job. Whereas if you leave it open to the community and everyone contributes a little bit.
That's a tough job. Just think about the person that has to do that job and what they have to read constantly and how they have to do that. That's not a fun job to have if you're constantly surrounded by things that are.
Yep.
So like not only is it hard, like it's a difficult job on top of it being never relentless. So
yeah.
I wouldn't want that job to just read hateful stuff online all the time. I would not want that job.
Now, where it gets tough, one of the things that Meta calls out, and Meta is of course going to highlight the good reasons for this change because they're making the change and they want people to feel good about them.
Yeah.
One of the things they call out is the biases of the fact checkers.
Sure. They're people, but like
that's tough because fact checkers can potentially have biases. At the same time, online communities
can also
absolutely have biases. So I don't see a switch to community notes really solving that problem. And
that's a wash.
Yeah,
that's the same in both places. So,
and making matters even more complex, when someone has been hired specifically to be a fact checker, you hope that that person is holding themselves to a higher standard.
I hope.
And being held to a higher standard by the organization that has hired them. And you can have people in place managing all of that. With community notes, we're relying on your average person to monitor the content. And I would like to think that we can trust a trained professional over the average person.
So, completely agree with that. From Meta's point of view, if I now get to either reposition or let go, I don't know how large their team was, but let's just say it was even a medium-sized team at their company, and introduce a tool that is now more community focused. My bottom line.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like from a money standpoint, I get to go wipe the board of that. They also get to Pontius Pilate this. They get to wash their hands and say, we don't have content. You don't look at us. It's not. We're not.
And we've talked about this on stream before. Every online platform wants to be able to say, we're just a platform.
Correct.
We're not responsible for the content.
Not the editor.
If someone commits fraud, that's them. We are a public square. They just came here and they started speaking. It's not us. We got nothing to do with them.
So like super. So I completely understand why they did this because of the liability standpoint. Like I have no idea how much this just saves them in the courtroom, going like, it was not us. It's not a rogue employee. It's not a bad process. Nope, it's not us. Period.
If you're Meta, you have every reason in the world to want this change.
Yep.
The question is, what does it mean for businesses and consumers?
Let's actually talk about this a little bit, because there are some downsides to Meta for this. Does this build the trust of the advertiser? Will my ad now be shown beside content that is not as vetted as thoroughly? Well, that only takes a little bit of time before advertiser 1 gets a screenshot of hateful content piece and then their ad right below it, and now there's association between these two things. Advertisers don't like that.
Yeah, but I imagine some of that's still going to be controlled programmatically, because we're not necessarily talking about hateful content. No, we're talking about fact content.
There's I mean, I'm assuming that you still can't go out there and do completely. Yeah. But it does just open.
They're still going to do some work to determine where content is displayed in terms of relevancy.
It's just that the bigger players do care about where their brand makes it. So if there's less moderation, there is more variance.
But where are the advertisers going to go?
That is that's another one. They are the biggest. So where are they going to go? They're pretty pooched that way. They're going to stay. They're going to have questions. If I was on like the brand integrity team at, I don't know, pick a big company, it's something that you're going to have to keep an eye on.
I wouldn't speak of these potential advertiser appeasement ramifications in the same breath as the bottom line cost savings and distancing from liability that Meta gets at.
Meta gets way more.
Right, this is so much better for Meta.
That's not even. Yes. But that's what it does mean for businesses. You shouldn't. You just have to pay attention. But you should have been doing that anyways. Where's your? You should be able to see. So if you're advertising on Meta, you should be able to log in the back end. You should be able to see where your placements are actually displaying. Pay attention to that. Are your ad placements actually where they're supposed to be? Are they reaching the right audience? Those are things that you need to know, and you need to pay attention to that. And that'll probably change a little bit through this. But that is part of advertising. You need to be accountable to where your promotions land. So it's still on you at the end of the day. And you might need to make some tweaks. But like overall, it wouldn't be like I'm going to go exit Meta because the advertising platform. No, you just need to pay attention.
If your audience is there, keep advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to the middle one. What does it mean U.S. only launch? What does that kind of make sense? But
so like the U.S., they're expecting U.S. law to make this make sense.
Yes.
Right. They're expecting not to be held accountable for not controlling the content in the U.S. That seems to read politically. I would argue that it will probably be a long time before this changes in the EU, if anything.
Mm-hmm. This is very typical of most how software is rolled out. They roll it out in one community, so the community happens to be the United States, and they do a bunch of testing, and then they'll roll it out globally, or they'll test it in one market and roll it out somewhere else. That's kind of par for the course.
The U.S. is a big market, so
Yeah.
even if Meta gets to save a bunch of money in the U.S., good for them.
It's millions of dollars.
I think they'll roll out this change everywhere they think they can get away with it.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that.
Anything else to share on that topic?
We'll see what there. Yeah. If I were you, there's you can find them very easily. You can see Mark Zuckerberg. They've got a very, very public video out there explaining all of this. You can go watch it yourself if you're running ads or you're thinking about running ads on Facebook or on Instagram. This is a 5-minute video. Watch it. Make your decision. You got to go to where your audience is. If your audience is on the platform and you want to sell something to them, that's the option you got. Of course, there are always other avenues. Meta just happens to be
A big one.
one of the biggest.
Yep.
So that's it. If you're a Canadian business, this doesn't have a whole lot of effect on you at all because
For now. Yeah.
And again, if this was to affect Canada, we would be putting it on the stream and saying, here's all the things. But if you're a Canadian business selling on or advertising through Meta right now, you'll probably notice nothing until they change it. So
This is advertising
Easy.
related. If
Yep.
you need advertising help, you have questions about your advertising, or need any other general media services, I would encourage you to book a free strategy call with one of our experts.
Yeah.
We'll take the time to get to know your business, develop a plan that makes sense for you, and answer your burning questions so that you can move forward with confidence and clarity. If that seems impactful, then make a strategy call. Then book a strategy call. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.
take care.